Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to welcome a very dear friend as guest artist and Arthur Fraser International Piano Competition juror, Dr. Jeffrey Brown. I've known Dr. Brown since, I think, 1995, and he's a very dear friend and a wonderful artist. He's won a lot of competition prizes, the Kiochescu Chopin competition, the Iowa International Piano Competition, Eastman's Concerto competition, and has performed as a soloist and collaborative artist extensively throughout the United States, across Europe, Asia. So really delighted to have him here, and let's welcome him.
inefficient, but before we dive in from the beginning again, let's set the context for, I think he said it was on. Do I have to do something? There we go. So let's set the historical context before we start, because I think it's really important and central to the character of this piece. What was the sonata that he wrote immediately before this? Yeah, this is the 24th sonata. It's okay. So the Appassionata sonata preceded this, and there was a period of about 4 years between that work and this. And can you imagine a more striking contrast between that sonata and all, he was pushing the boundaries of the structure and what the piano could do, and the power and darkness of that. And then we turn to this after a rest of 4 years. So what ideas do you have about the character of this? I mean, because it's such a striking contrast in every way when you imagine where he was going, and then suddenly we seem to take a detour. That's right, yeah. That's a wonderful way of looking at it. If you didn't hear, she said it's dedicated to a countess and perhaps kind of a love letter, she thinks. And it could be a wonderful tribute to her character, perhaps. So what does that mean musically for us? How would you describe the character of this? Yeah, and I think you bring a wonderful fluidity to this piece. You have a beautiful sound, and it's actually, after hearing the repertoire you played yesterday, it's so nice to hear you play something of such a contrasting nature. So there are just a few thoughts that I have in this. That first of all, there are a lot of times in here where I think we can get a little bit more of a sense of the inflection that is created with the slurs that he's written. A little bit more space at times, and overall, parts of it I think are really simple musically, not technically always, but and I think if we keep that character in mind that you mentioned, that will frame the work ahead. So, can you play the introduction again for us? Beautiful. Now, just to experiment, I'd like for you to try it again without the una corda pedal. What I hear in this is that we want the kind of soft sound that's warm and enveloping to the audience. And I know particularly with this instrument, the una corda pedal has a really muting effect. So it's not just that it's softening the sound, but it can easily become a little bit more muffled. So I don't think it's going to be, I'm actually going to go out in the hall, I don't think it's going to be too strong, but can you try that again without the una corda pedal? From your perspective up there, how do you describe the difference in the sound? Well, from here it has more, just more ring to it. I'd still describe that as a very soft sound. It's setting up the character that you want and that you described for this, but it just has, it's more enveloping out in the audience. Okay? Can you try one more time? And I think that you're doing a great job with the voicing and the shaping of this, but can you keep the second measure maybe just a little bit more simple in time? I think because our destination really is that note, and so we have this line that's just endlessly leading up to that. So he does write a few slurs in here for inflection. And you don't need to put that much space in there. But it is an intention that there's a slight separation, which then creates more of an inflection on the G sharp. Okay, let's try just one more time. Good, and another way to approach that ornament would, for me, it's so musical. It's also kind of stopping in the middle. Can you try once having it more continuous so that we get a destination? Think like a singer would. And then resolve. Yeah, so in an introduction like this, I mean, it is such special music, and you can wrestle with the colors and the voicing endlessly because we want this to be such a profound introduction to the sonata, and this theme doesn't come back again. I mean, it's stated once, and that's it. We can find elements of the rest of the sonata within that, but it's such a special introduction. So the way that he's marked this, after the fermata on the C sharp, the allegro ma non troppo starts right with the pickup note. So it's not uncommon to hear, but I think we can try to keep it a little bit simpler, and after the breath that comes after the fermata, begin the pickup notes in time. Okay, so let's start maybe on the third bar again, and then we'll continue. Good. That was very nice. That was very nice. So with this first, what is the destination note in this slur? So he's marked all of this in one slur. Yeah, I think the same. So this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about experimenting with keeping it a little bit simpler, so not making such an event out of the E sharp. And then similarly, in the second measure after the repeat, that's all one slur. So we can easily get tied up in the middle, bum, 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 with all the, but let's just keep one destination. Okay, so right from the allegro again. Excellent, and I love your sound on the leggermente. It's so fluid and delicate. Are you sometimes using the una corda pedal there? That's okay. So try just, and I'll go back and forth in the hall. I think we can still get that wonderful, light, fluid sound with just a little bit more ring into it. I don't think you have such a sensitive touch. I don't think it's going to be in danger of being too loud. So let's try that one more time, and try with no una corda when we get there. Yes, so again, that would be my preference. And I know that this is a very live space, and sometimes we feel like perhaps this was going to be too overwhelming, but that was just right for me. So we have frequently in this these little 3-note gestures within a slur. And I think we want to interpret that with a few things in mind. The first note is the strongest in terms of the inflection, and the last note is both the lightest and shortest. So I think after these slurs, we can have just a little bit more space, a little bit more of a release, and short notes here, just a little bit more lightness and character. Because that's such a contrast with these long fluid lines, like the triplet slur that precedes it. Can you start just on the leggermente? That's it. So I hear just more space after those notes, and keeping it light and delicate. And really, you know, I think thinking about how we use the una corda pedal, it's really like putting the mute on a violin. You know, I mean, we want to reserve that for a very special type of sound. And so I would say, looking at this score and this movement, there's probably not a need, unless, I mean, you can find ways to balance using it and playing with a little bit more depth. But I'd encourage you to experiment not using it at all. Good. Let's start right on the 3-note slur, the first. Leading up to the second theme, you have a wonderful sense of direction. I like what you're doing with the accents. When we see those 3 accents, Sforzandi in a row and Beethoven, you have a nice sense of direction there. I think we can look at the left hand for a little bit more detail in the shape here. Can you start from, is that a comfortable place? So we have that pesky 3-note slur again. So a little bit of space at the end of that. And then, yeah, so let's try from so just a little bit more clarity there, because this can easily become overwhelming. You're not using too much pedal, but we sometimes need more space at the end of slurs like that. That was very nice. And then in the crescendo and these tenuto marks on the chords leading up to that, I think we want one line once we start. Let's see, underscore. These. One line pressing forward with this destination in mind. Okay, so it's okay to feel these a little bit more broadly, starting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, just ever so slightly pulling back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Good. What's the character of the second theme? Well, you know, it's interesting in this sonata. I mean, we can think of some of his other sonatas in which there's a much more striking contrast between really powerful or driving or aggressive theme and a more lyrical or dance-like theme. Here, they're both really elegant and beautiful. What I hear in the second theme is a little bit more simplicity. So notice that he's marked this long slur over the first measure and a half. And we can easily get caught up in a lot of making a big deal out of a lot of small shapes. But I would encourage you to think just one simple gesture through that whole slur. Can you try right on the second theme once? Good. Now, try that again and thinking, you're doing such a beautiful job of following the contour of the line. Da, 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 da. Can you just keep it all a little bit more one sound, very simple. Good, and then we have the surprise that comes at the end with the forte two-note slur. So I think you want to keep that a little bit more, just a little bit more simple through those long slurs. I would also think of this in 2 rather than 4. Yeah. Good, and see if you like this, a little bit more space at the end of the slur. And what usually precedes a sforzando is a little bit of space or time. And so that will give you a little bit more emphasis. Good, and let's start on the two-note slurs one more time. The important thing to keep in mind, though, I think we want to keep the second note lighter and shorter. We often have the tendency to want to play the higher notes stronger. Yeah, so think of the second note like a release. Yeah, yeah. Good, and that sets you up for a strong emphasis on the sforzando. And even there, I would probably refrain from using the soft pedal because suddenly it adds a little bit more muffle to the sound. In general, I think a feeling of 2 in this works really well to retain a really fluid sense of direction. Now, it's 10:25, so that's probably a good place to stop. You play this so beautifully, so the main things that I would think about in this, just getting to the character of it, are the sound. You have a really beautiful sound. Just make sure that we don't cover it up too much with the left pedal. And thinking about all of the little delicate inflections that he's created with the slurs in here. Because you have such a lovely fluid legato. Sometimes we just need a little bit more space in there. Congratulations. Yeah, beautiful performance. All right, great job, Luke. Rachmaninoff is obviously a special composer for you, yes? Have you played other works besides the concerto in this etude?
I think these are actually the main works by Rachmaninoff that I played, but I definitely want to learn more. I really enjoy playing
Okay,
Rachmaninoff.
excellent. So how would you describe what are the primary technical challenges that you had to overcome when learning this?
I think one thing is there's just so many, like it's a very thick texture.
Absolutely.
And lots of voices going on, so just kind of balancing.
Yeah. So voicing is always a challenge in this, and you're really doing a great job of projecting voices. As you mentioned, it's a really thick texture, so we can quickly become, I'm not saying this in your performance, but we can quickly become numb to just a wash of sound when it's all such a thick texture all the time. But you have a wonderful ear for color and creating a lot of nice variety in here. I think what is the structure of this work? How many main sections would you say there are?
Maybe 3.
Yeah, I'd say it's in an A-B-A form. We have that contrasting section in the middle, and then, of course, a long coda at the end that just gradually unwinds. So within, one of the dangers, I think, in working on this is that there are so many glorious moments that we would just want to take time and dwell in, that some of the main climactic moments that we want to be overwhelming and dramatic can get lost in there. So I think within the first section, which I would say is from the beginning up until about where? Right here, where we change to the arpeggiated figures in the left hand. So in this, looking at this as one large section, where are the main climactic moments in it for you?
I think one big moment is right here.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I would say maybe that's even the high point of the entire section.
I would say so too, yeah. So within the first 12 measures or so, we have a little arrival here, and then a little decay, and then we start, all of this is building up again to a much more dramatic climax there. And Rachmaninoff is actually really detailed in how he's written things dynamically, emphases with tenuto markings to sculpt that for us. So I think that when we get to here, I mean, you have a wonderfully powerful sound. I think that the climactic moments can be even more with no more effort from your part. Do you feel like do you feel tired after playing this, or do you feel like you're working really hard?
Not too tired.
Good, because I think we want to keep in mind that you want to feel like you are releasing energy into the piano. So you have to rely on just the natural weight of the arm. So catch yourself if you ever feel, a lot of times in intimate moments or sensitive moments, we want to go into the piano more. We tend to kind of move our shoulders up a little bit, and that kind of cuts off our power source. So you should really feel a sense of openness in this that matches the music, okay? So let's try from the beginning and go through the first 12 measures or so. So each one of these little groupings, so we have, let's say, a 4-measure phrase here with a little bit of a punctuation at the end by those tenuto markings. And then we take it to a higher level over this semi-climactic moment, okay? Can we try from the beginning just until the bottom of the page or so? Excellent, and that's just enough of an arrival there without taking away from the larger climax at the end of this section. How would you describe the character of this?
Very passionate.
Passionate, yeah.
Kind of devastated, almost like.
Yeah, I mean Rachmaninoff was great at that, right? Devastation or melancholy or darkness. So I think the role of the triplets in this etude is feeling, I mean, it does give us propulsion forward, but with so much heaviness and angst. And I like that you're not being too fussy with the triplet rhythm. Sometimes we can hear maybe excessive rubato in that, and I like the simplicity. I think that you can have a little bit more weight in them to have this sense of angst without overwhelming the melodic line. Can you try that one more time? So you want a feeling like each triplet is a hard step to take. Not a slower tempo, just a little bit more weight and darkness down there. Yeah, that would be my preference. I think it establishes a darker atmosphere and really captures that weight of the character. Notice those little tenuto markings that he puts at the end of the fourth bar. I think that is, I think we can observe those even more. Just for a little bit of space before we begin the next phrase. Can you try one last time? We'll keep going. Just that little bit of punctuation at the end of the first phrase. And then he does it again here. All of these tenuto markings have a sense of pulling us back at just the right moment after we've reached the climactic point of the phrase. So I think we don't want to diminish too soon. So he doesn't even mark the diminuendo until here. So keep this one really strong and heavy, and then the next one a little bit less that will lead to the decay for the end of the phrase. Where is a good place to start? Can you start a measure? Oh, sorry. Maybe here? And now a little bit more tender. Yeah, very nice, very nice. And then you're doing a nice job of voicing that left-hand answer. I think it can be just a little bit more prominent still, because we're not expecting it, okay? Let's go ahead to the next phrase. So now we're leading up to this larger climactic section in the first section. You're handling this technical challenge really well. We want to sense that each one of these drives to the next downbeat, and that's what's going to lead us up to here. So I mentioned a minute ago that I think these larger climactic moments in each section, you can have even a little bit more power with no more effort. And I think what I'd like you to think about when we approach that is feeling a little bit more arm weight into the piano, not attacking, but just dropping more, and trying to keep this more open posture so that we don't at all go in and cut off our power source, okay? So can you start from the second measure at the top of the page? That's very well sculpted. Do you feel at all like you're ever forcing the sound?
That's definitely something I've been working on, so I think there's definitely still room for improvement.
Yeah, so I always feel in those big arrival points, especially, you know, the things that you're thinking about, obviously, to avoid a harsh sound are how you're producing the sound with a natural way to the arm, how you're voicing the chords, and say, in this case, a lot of attention to the outside voices, since the texture is so thick, to frame the sound, to keep it from getting harsh. But if you feel at these big moments like you are releasing energy into the piano instead of pressing or forcing, you will have a more powerful sound with less effort. And you've already been doing a fine job of working on that. We'll go on to the middle section, but the last thing in this opening section, when we have these, we have some beautiful, unexpected color changes with the harmony in the second half of this A section. So here and here, don't shy away. He's already marking a crescendo here, and you're pacing this really nicely. But we do want to have that beautiful surprise that comes with those unexpected color changes. So don't play them too softly, okay? All of this, again, each one you kind of build up and start over again. So you can build up again, finally for a great arrival there. We won't go back, but I think the main thing in this A section, aside from the voicing, which you're already doing a fine job with, is the sculpting of this so that when we do reach those really climactic moments, it's such an overwhelming sense of release. And we have not yet reached the biggest one in the piece yet. He marks this fortissimo. He marks the one in the return of the A section, fortissimo. So that was not an accident, I think. How would you describe the change in character as we go to the B section?
It's a little bit more peaceful, but I think the left hand is still kind of makes it still a little bit restless.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. We have, again, some really interesting voicing here, and you're doing a great job of bringing out some of these middle lines. I think they can even be more prominent still. Let's start just right on the B section. So he's marked piano here, and you have a wonderfully sensitive sound. I hear the left hand just a little bit more transparent. I mean, we have some really lovely colors, and you're doing a nice job of dwelling when he changes to minor in the second measure, right here. But I hear the opening of this, especially after the wash of sound that we've had throughout the powerful chordal A section, just a little bit more distant, maybe more melancholy, and a little bit more transparent in the opening. Can you try that at the beginning? And now a little stronger. Middle section. I would challenge you not to, where did we just stop on your score? I would challenge you to delay the crescendo until where he's written here. So we of course feel like this is building up in energy, but hold yourself back so all of this stays soft and we don't really begin the crescendo until here. Because again, we have, where is the climactic moment of this middle section? Yeah, the big B major chord. So let's start from here and then really delay the crescendo until you start there. Good. Sorry to stop you. I would make the first note a little bit more prominent so that we definitely tune into that middle voice. the F sharp got a little bit lost there. Can you try it again? And now the E flat. Yeah. So both are beautiful lines. I think the tenor voice is actually the more interesting one in these first few measures. So try one more time just with making sure that we hear that a little bit more prominently. And you still want to have a sense of direction in that it leads to the downbeat. But that's the idea. So each one of these are two measure groupings, and each one leads to the second measure and then resolves. Okay? Try one more time, keeping everything piano. Like that was the strongest you can play without forcing the sound? Okay, I think that this can be even a little bit more of an arrival. And again, you want to say it's not your absolute strongest because that is going to be the final climactic section. But I think through a combination of just a little bit more time leading up to the B major chord and a little bit more of a sense of release into the piano with your arms, it can create a much more powerful arrival. That was really well shaped. You don't need to go all the way back, but maybe this measure? Forcing the sound or pressing? Didn't sound like it from over here.
Yeah, I think I mostly just released.
Yeah. So then we have to quickly pull back to mezzo forte because we have another build-up ahead. So from here, I'd say delay. He marks the crescendo starting in the second measure. Delay that just a little bit longer because again, you have a long way to go still. Can you start right on the mezzo forte? And just one simple gesture. I know he marks tenutos on every single one. But think of this as one gesture. And now another one. Very nice. So I like your pacing with the accelerando and the ritenuto. Probably can pull back a little bit more leading up to the return, but it feels very organic what you're doing there. So I think that your voice, it's a challenge in the return of this A section to project the melody in the tenor range, and you're doing a really nice job of that. So he marks pesante in the right hand. That goes back to this idea that the triplets really, it's like you're trying to go forward, but it's having a sense of being held back because it's just, I think, overwhelming angst here. So don't back off so much on the triplets that we lose that weight that they're adding to the sound. Can you try right on the tempo one? And in terms of the structure of this, you already nailed it a minute ago. This is where we're leading. I think leading up to here, you can take more time. He's marked ritardando, crescendo, tenutos. Just pull back, and then when we finally arrive there, similar feeling as you just had in the B section. It needs to be a total release of energy into the piano. Can you try from the tempo one? So as you continue to work on this, I think one of the challenges in this section is to make sure that there is a sense of shape, small shape in the right hand, and consistent voicing in the chords, because it's easy to focus so much on projecting this melody that the right hand is just really too far in the background. So you can get that balance of having weight in the chords and having it function in the way that it's moving forward without just totally backing off entirely. That was much better. Tell me, as we start to get to the transition and the coda, what do you think is the character and the role of these? I mean, we're obviously kind of winding down, wouldn't you say? This has kind of, to me, a little bit of an improvisatory flavor. And I think you have license to take a little bit more time, especially on the second one, which is tricky. Can you start right on the fortissimo? Yeah, and so over the arc of this line, don't back off so much on the first 16th note that it's not heard. Okay, so that's where he marks the diminuendo. Bum, da, 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 da. So that note needs to continue from where the quarter note decayed to. Can you try that again? Good. So now we've reached the beginning of the end here. I think it again goes back to the same kind of transparent feeling that we had in the opening of the B section. But the challenge here is that it's such, I mean, the energy is continuing to dissipate over the course of so many measures, but revel in that. It can start to relax a little bit as you progress through this, so that it just really fades into nothingness with the surprise of that little D-flat mezzo forte splash there. Can you start from the coda, just right on the 6/4? Really glassy sound in the opening here. So, and still maintain a sense of direction with that inner voice. we're still leading a little bit more to the downbeat there. Can you try it once more? Yeah, you have a very nice sense of pacing in this. So I would say moving forward this, you've overcome the technical challenges in this, but I think the things that will continue to move you forward with this are more of a sense of power at the most critical points. And I wouldn't ever say that you want to feel like you're doing something that's unnatural, where you're pressing to create more sound, but I think you still have more power within you and a warmer, richer sound at some of those great climactic moments without working any harder. So just focus on, maintaining this freedom. Avoid going too close to the piano, because it's going to directly impact your sound for that big chordal, powerful sound that you want. And then continue to think about how each of these sections, the A, B, A, and coda, have clear points of arrival. And because again, we can easily get distracted by so many beautiful small moments in it. But you have done a really fine work in preparing this. So, do you have a chance to perform it anytime in the near future?
Not yet, but
okay.
sometime soon.
Yeah, I hope you do. It's great to hear you, and congratulations again on your fine performance yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks very much to Dr. Jeffrey Brown for a really outstanding masterclass. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, all right. Beautiful job, Kyle. I think you have a really great sense of Chopin's style overall. I think you have a lot of very convincing timings, which is a really important part of performance of any Chopin nocturne. Very fine projection of sound, and very good balances between the right hand and the left hand. So it's already a refined performance. And what we'll spend a little time working on is the atmosphere, which is really very special in this nocturne. That's what, it's a piece that's kind of famous for a reason, because it has such a beautiful atmosphere. And I think that the left hand is largely responsible for creating the atmosphere. The bass, and then how the interior notes. The way the interior notes of the texture create overtones off of the bass is what sets the atmosphere. And I think we want to try to get a sense of beatlessness, so that your rhythm can be good in two, but not actually needing to show the pulsation to the listener. So let's do an exercise. Instead of playing the left hand just with the left hand, let's play the left hand with both hands, with one tone in the bass, and then these being a different level, just color, like the background of a painting. Thank you. Yeah, that's already better. You can think of the interior notes as fading away. So you don't need an accent, especially on beat 3. You don't need to go to there. Instead, you can simply fade away. Try one more time. Free wrist. That's better. Thank you. Thank you. Now, drop your arm for a second by your side. When you put your hand, feel a completely free right hand wrist. Much quieter on this. That's better, thank you. So now you have that sound in your ear. Let's work on getting the left hand from point A to point B. You want to feel completely free. Let your arm move your hand to the middle register. Don't feel your hand moving your arm, but instead move from back here. Try. Let's just move over here, but don't play the next note. Good. So that's the main motion of the piece in the left hand. That happens a couple hundred times. So if that's really free, you'll get a better sound in this register. Because if I try to control my shift too much, then I'm going to over-articulate in the middle register. So you want a sense of floating back and forth. Try. Try playing with twice as much bass as the other notes. You see, it's a layer. That's how you set a special atmosphere in the piece. Your left hand was a little more flexible this time. So it's two levels of sound. The bass is one level, fairly warm. And then the rest is a little bit of a fog. And that's kind of the frame for the right hand melody. And then, so that's the main job of the left hand. And it's so important in this nocturne. And then the other job of the left hand is to enable the right hand to do a lot of nuances. And you already do that a lot, but you can do it even more. The kind of flexibility of the left hand, because Chopin writes the left hand in 16th notes the entire time. And if we quit listening even for 1 second, the left hand can get on autopilot. It can become too rhythmic. But if you continuously think of what is the right hand doing, that you're always thinking of what is the next timing in the right hand. How does the left hand enable the right hand to do that? Okay, let's play a few measures now. A nice rich bass, and then tucking these other notes inside. Try. One more time. Feel your arm produce the sound. Better to have a little too much than not enough. Good. Let's continue. Now bass. That's better. Thank you. Good. So, shake out this arm for a moment. Let's practice just bass. That's better, yeah. The reason it's richer is because your arm is freer. And this is a piece where we don't have to try too hard to control the sound. It's slow. We have time to do a motion of the arm to make the sound. If I try to make the sound right here on the key, it's one of two things will probably happen. It will either be too thin, or it might be too abrupt. Because I'm making it with just a very small part of my body. If you feel the sound coming from all of this middle part of your arm, then it will be more natural. You did a beautiful job of that time. Let's do it once more. That's exactly right, and continue. Don't rush. Don't rush. Quiet, left hand, please. Very good. So that's the opening paragraph of the piece. And that's where you want to draw the audience in to what you're doing, kind of like a magician. You have to get the audience really listening attentively to you. Okay. And then already something much more dramatic happens over here. So what key are we in after this?
I think that's
B flat minor, exactly. And how would you describe the character change that might happen there?
It's more sorrow than the beginning.
Yeah, it's more sorrow than the beginning. And why do you think he writes the double notes instead of just continuing on with the single notes?
Well, I think it shows like what the chords are more.
Yeah, it creates a little bit more texture. Sometimes composers use texture to create drama. And so that might be what he's doing. Also, the phrase is a little longer. it's kind of more continuous. You can easily imagine it a little more operatically, as though it would be sung. So let's start there. And so with this soft mood you've established, you can use a little more intensity here. Let's go from the B flat minor. Thank you. It's already pretty good. And I think that it's important to remember in this nocturne, which has a uniform rhythm the whole time, that it doesn't all have to be in exactly the same tempo. You can think of the tempo. Sometimes we think of the tempo as a specific point. Like, you know, if we're playing a piece, we might think the tempo is exactly this, like 60 or 90 or whatever. But often the tempo is actually more of a range. If you think of the tempo for the nocturne more like this, there might be parts that are kind of over here, kind of on the slower side of that range. And then there might be parts that are actually a little bit more to the other side. So try again and let the tempo move forward a little bit more. So now you really set aside this B flat minor from the D flat, which to my ears is absolutely right, because it is so much different. It's more intense. It's has a lot more dynamic markings from Chopin, and of course the Expressive mark. And then as you can see over here, he gets to forte. So that's our first climax of the piece. And then after the code forza, there's a very interesting nuance here. It's kind of a flat 2 chord, so it's a very atmospheric chord from A flat to A natural. So make sure you make a big color change there. So the mood changes let's try it. Big sound. Even more. Yeah, and then okay, continue. And now light wrist. Bit more tone. More bass, perhaps. Very good, Kyle. Beautifully done. Thank you. I really like the way you build the tone at the end of the phrase here, then decrescendoing to pianissimo. Just make sure when you do it, you don't get too tense, because I do think you have a really good ear for the sound. If you want a crescendo, it's a great idea. Just make sure you continue to do it with a free wrist. Okay, how about we start from 22. Relax your wrist a little bit more in right hand, please. Inner voice, a little more right hand. Very good, very good. And then he writes for pianissimo. Let's one more exercise with this theme. Let's play just melody and bass. Right. So that's what it's all about, that. And then this other stuff is like the background color in an impressionist painting. It's completely different from the foreground, which would be the main event, the main object. This is, so let's add everything again. Just a little more ringing sound in right hand. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. For my ears, that was your most convincing atmosphere so far. That was very lovely. Thank you. Okay, so what key do we go to next? There's something else interesting happening here. Do you know what key that's in? Yeah, A major. And so he kind of foreshadowed that a little bit over here with the flat 2 chords we were talking about. And now he uses it as a more structural key. And notice that he goes for the second time to the double notes again. First time was here. Now we have this. In some ways, melodically pretty closely related, but completely different color. Now he says dolce. Now it's in A major. What do you think about the movement of the music here? Do you think it will go forward some, like the? Yeah, I agree with that too. But a very soft color. So now you have to imagine a kind of airier sound from your opera singer on this stage. Let's start from there. Let it go forward into 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's very good, Kyle. I especially like some of the timings that you're doing. I think they're pretty convincing. Just remember that on a piano like this, in a hall like this, you don't have to force your sound. You have excellent sound production. So you can get the sounds you want. Without using extra tension in your wrist. Remember that the arm is way bigger than the hand. So it's really the arm, when we're playing chords, or double notes. That's going to create a beautiful sound. And if I press, sure, I might get more sound, a little bit, but the quality of the sound might not be quite as good. So feel your sound coming, and you know you're getting freer and freer in your hand in the last few minutes, which is great. Just feel your sound coming more from these muscles. This one. Let's go back over to the dolce. Relax. Float this more. Breathe out while you're playing. Maybe move forward. now we're forte. But even here, the interior voice can be less than the bass. Let's go from the climax. Okay. Slow descent. Good. That's it. Use your arm. Create a gesture. Less inner voice. This can be softer. Take your time. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. So for a couple minutes each day, do this exercise of floating back and forth, creating a warm bass, and then something very special in the middle. Let's jump to the end. Where would be a good place to start? Maybe from here. So here as well. Show us how soft you can play in the middle register. Take your time. Relax. Good, good. Yeah, and you can imagine this is just something kind of floating into the sky. Totally fading away. Cut it. Take your time. I might recommend a thumb for the second to last chord because it could less stretchy, easier to produce. And maybe for the last chord, 1-4. Yes. And here's a place at the very end here where I think you could use the soft pedal. Yeah, and one exercise you could do is just play the chords repeatedly a few times. It trains the ears to hear the color. Let's do that. With soft pedal. Very nice, beautiful. Now. Good. Yeah, and take your time. You have plenty of time in a Chopin nocturne. It's always okay to stretch. Yeah. Both tops. One more time. Good. Beautiful. Beautiful. And then you can hold this chord until the sound practically disappears on its own. Yeah. So just to summarize, let me say again how much I've enjoyed your performances this week in the competition, and also a very lovely Chopin nocturne with a lot of beautiful timings, and with a really excellent sense of style overall. So, and really wonderful pedaling too. So, yeah, if you can incorporate a few of these comments to make the atmosphere even more special, and especially colorful in the left hand, creating a texture where the interior notes blending in, and then thinking a little bit about the freedom of your wrist and arm and some of your right hand phrasings. But I heard a lot of difference today, and do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to hear you, pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Relinquishing the microphone.
Great job, Jerry. I particularly liked, and my ears immediately perked up when you went from development back to the recapitulation, and something happened. Did you notice anything different about how you played the recapitulation? The same theme you played in the beginning. Did you have a different feeling about it?
Maybe it was like a little bit warmer, I guess, and it wasn't. Yeah, I guess a little bit warmer.
Anything else? Did you feel more comfortable?
I mean, I felt it was kind of like, it was a little bit more relieving because you just came from the development back to, so it just, it's like a feeling of relief, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely a feeling of real, sort of more floating, more flowing, less controlling in a sense of articulation. And of course, it's really hard to get that feeling from the beginning. And I was so happy to see that your reaction, your intuition and sort of minute reactions to everything that happened in a score really came forth in the recapitulation. That's exactly how I imagine Mozart should be played, with that kind of spontaneity and attentiveness to every little curve in the melody. So we're going to try to get that same feeling in the opening, but you already have it. You just have to create the right environment in your mind, not to over control every note in the beginning. But another thing I want to work on while we're doing this is a little bit more sense of contrast and just even a little bit of drama. I mean, these are kind of operatic pieces, and there's nothing wrong with breaking out of this. We sometimes feel Mozart should be refined and kind of all soft and half tones, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, he was a full-blooded human being with all range of emotions. So let's start from the beginning and remember back to how you came to the recapitulation with a sense of relief, and start like that. Very good. Let me stop you here. Great. So in this opening, I can hear you playing predominantly with this sweet lyrical character. Are there any other characters, distinct characters, that you might feel there are here?
I'm not, maybe where like.
Great. Okay, so that's one. Yeah? This. Suddenly, we're breaking out of this lyricism, right? And a little bit more playfulness. You have to play it up. You feel it, but you don't show it enough. So we don't really get it. It's still sweet, okay? So playful, play up the playfulness. That's one character. Okay, what else? Sorry. What's that?
I guess it's a little bit more, I guess it's stronger and then a bit grander, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So it starts lyrically, then metamorphoses through playfulness, and then really, and what does it say here?
I can't see it, sorry. Open.
Open. Who said that?
Maybe my teacher, I'm not
Oh my God. Maybe my teacher, I'm not sure. I'm sure it was your teacher, so I'm not the first one to tell you that. So it probably is a little bit, you need a little bit of encouragement, right? To break out of one character. So let's try. And forte. Okay, having a little hesitation going full, right?
Yeah.
What stops you?
I think it's because some teachers say like it can't be too much, you know, because
A lot of voices in your head, right? We feel that, we feel that. If you commit to something, even if it's just for 5 minutes, commit to it fully, okay? Stop the voices, silence them. Let's try really opening up and see how you like it. Let's try from here. Okay, let me ask the audience. What do you think? Was that loud?
it was very good.
Ah, you see, it's the best feedback, huh? Immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were?
I think it was,
Yeah.
it was more, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you gotta stop the voices in your head, and you have to play what you hear. So this was excellent. All right, let's keep going. Okay, very good, very good. So Mozart has a lot of filigree, a lot of runs, and they span great range. They go, you know, here, octave and a half, really. So the timbre changes. When you're in this octave, it's sort of like a little bit darker, richer. And then as you go up, do you hear how the timbre changes? We have to react to that. We can't assume that it's the same timbre. If we do that with the same touch, the timbre won't shine. So I'm going to ask you, we'll try it maybe once in tempo. If it doesn't work, I'm going to ask you to play it a little bit slower so you can hear the tempo change. But show me the tempo change. And then as it descends back into this octave, you see how it changes back?
Yeah.
Just react to that, okay? It's completely normal. It's not playing loud. It's just reacting to timbre change. That's exactly what happened. I knew it might happen, okay? So that's why we tried it in tempo. Of course, your muscle memory overrides right now what you want to do. So we're going to do it slow once so you could react to it a little bit more comfortably. And then react back. Yes, and very important as you reach the peak, not to just drop like you drop off a cliff, okay? That would be fall and death. So we want to sort of roll down slowly so we could kind of keep living for a little bit longer. But that was great. So you're hearing, really that climb. And then from that climb, it's steep. You roll down a little bit more flatter, right? So don't let the sound go all the way. Try it one more time slowly. Richer, richer, richer. You just explored a great range of colors here in this instrument. That was really good. Can you recreate that a little bit faster? You hear it though now, right? What would be the solution? What are you doing that prevents you from doing it well right now? What is happening with your run?
Maybe it's a little bit too articulate.
It's too shallow too. It's too articulate and too shallow. So maybe you can't fix it right now in real time, but I'm convinced you can if you do a little bit of work. But you have to change the way you do it a little bit. So from this sort of semi-detached and articulate way, you want to switch to a little bit more, I wouldn't say legato, but deeper into the keys. Think from the low note to the next high note, from the low note to the next high note, from low note to high note. That will give you the right connection for the passage. And then don't let yourself play faster than you can do this. Okay? Try it like maybe just resync. Think a bit how you need to adjust your articulation and the way you play in order to play it like this. And then try it a little bit faster. Good, good, good. You're really doing well. Yeah, exactly. Right. So sometimes we just have to rethink how we do something, change connections, how we hear things. You were hearing, I think, more on the beat. And I changed your hearing from, and that really changed things. Okay, great. Let's keep going. Yes, already I see the characters coming out. That's great. In this next episode, we have one really melodic motive repeating 3 times. Do you know what one of the basic rules of music making is? When you have the same thing, what do? You vary it, yes. You simply cannot play it the same. So you kind of play it a little bit similar, and I noticed that happening with a lot of things that are repeating, like this one, for instance. You play it twice the same way, okay? So I just want to encourage you to never play it the same way. And you know, it's a very basic thing, but it really works. Do an echo. It really works. You do something louder, then you do something softer, then you do something louder again. I know it's basic and maybe not so creative, but we get it. And you know, and it varies things. So can you try that? Maybe let's try a simple echo. You know the word echo, right? So normal, I would call it a normal sound. Then echo sound. And then back to normal. Bravo. Yeah, see, this much. And already like we're like, this is really great. A small comment. So he does vary it. It's in the beginning it's straight. And then he adds this little turn. It's basically a turn, right? Yeah. But that little turn has more timbre variety than just simple straight down run. It goes down, it goes up, it goes down again. React to when it goes up with a little bit more brightness. Maybe not on a pianist, not on an echo, but when it comes back. One way you can emphasize that it's coming back in normal voice is to react to that note with more brightness, and it'll really shine it. Can you try that again? Now different, and open up. And soft. Different character. Don't you think? Changes?
Yeah.
Right there, like on a dime. So this was. So just kind of play up that change. Good. It's different. And so you don't feel that this goes back to this.
Yeah.
You don't, or you do?
Well, I thought before I played the second one a little bit lighter than the first one. A little
For
bit more
contrast.
playful. Yeah.
You see, I think in this case, I see that, more playful. I do agree with that. But we had so many contrasts already inside this theme that this reads like you're just sort of forgetting what the initial character was. Kind of not logical. Let's try building back into this, and you can just play it loud, but with a little bit more playfulness. You want to try that? Then change. Then open up, and less. And start building. The crescendo. And then I think you want to change on the resolution right here when the suspension resolves, not later. You see? Okay. Same. Do you see how, like, sort of light and almost superficial they are, like in terms of sound? Not that you're playing them superficially, but in terms of sound. React to the register. Good. Then soft, lyrical, not good. Left hand. Then 3 times. 3 times. You're gonna do something. Try it again. Do something. I think in this case, simple crescendo would work. Okay. Start soft and build. And change. Let me stop you here. Bravo. We're just going to go through the exposition because, you know, it basically has everything you want to do later on. I just want to work on the ending just a little bit. The ending here has a lot. It has a lot of information. So this initial run, it's kind of comes to the same note, but from below. So kind of a mirror. I just noticed that, by the way. It's really genius. So this run spills into the filigree. So you want to play up when it gets into the higher register. This one, however, doesn't. You see? It's like it gives you a different ending. Can you make certain that those are very, very different characters? Good. And I would, it's absolutely okay at the end to take a little bit more time. It's as if you're saying goodbye for the last time. Can you just do the last thing? No. You see how you go straight into that tone? Like it's continuing, but it's not. Goodbye. Goodbye. Good. I'm gonna stop you here. It was a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much, Jerry.